You know, the best adventures often start with a simple conversation. For me, it all began in 2022 at a New York airport. I bumped into a doctor. We got to talking, and she mentioned she was from Kenya. Now, I'd heard of Kenya, of course, but I didn't know anything about it. I was curious, so I started asking questions. She told me the vibes and the people in Kenya are like no other. Funny enough, that's exactly what I tell people about the Caribbean, where I'm from. So I kind of brushed it off, thinking, okay, cool. But the seed was planted. Back home in Alaska, I couldn't shake it. I decided to do my own research. And what's the best way to learn about a place? YouTube, obviously. I stumbled upon a YouTuber named Austin Holloman and binge-watched his videos. The way he captured the country, the culture, the energy. I was sold. I knew I had to see it for myself. So, in 2023, I booked the ticket. If you know me, you know I'm adventurous. This isn't out of character. I mean, one of the craziest things I did in my 20s was show up at an airport with just my passport and some clothes, look at the departures board, and pick a random flight to Georgetown, Guyana. So yeah, heading to Kenya felt right. As I started planning my trip from Alaska all the way to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, I just call it Jomo, this mix of excitement and nerves started to build. The big question kept popping into my head. Will I be safe? But honestly, I get that feeling every time I travel outside of Alaska. Even when I go back home to the Caribbean, so much has changed that it doesn't always feel like the safe place I remember. It's just part of the travel experience, I guess. The journey itself was an epic adventure. I left Alaska at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. About 4 hours later, I landed in Seattle. And then came the beast, a 15-hour non-stop flight to Qatar. That was, and still is, the longest single flight I've ever taken. It was completely exhausting, but also exhilarating. I ate everything they gave me, slept as much as I could, walked the aisles to stretch my legs, and watched a bunch of movies. But my favorite part was just staring out the window, watching the world change from thousands of feet in the air. Arriving at the airport in Qatar was a sight to behold. It's absolutely stunning. But it was a quick turnaround. Before I knew it, I was boarding my next flight, the final leg to Kenya. I think it was another 5 or 6 hours before we finally touched down at Jomo. The long journey was finally over, and the real adventure was about to begin. Now, if you're thinking of making this trip yourself, let's talk logistics. It's actually pretty straightforward. First, your passport. Make sure it's valid for at least 6 months after you plan to leave Kenya. You'll also need at least one blank page for the visa stamp. Speaking of visas, you'll need a tourist visa. The easiest way is to apply for an e-visa online through the official Kenya e-visa website. It's a simple process. You fill out the form, upload a passport-style photo and a copy of your passport, and pay the fee, which is usually around $50 for a single-entry visa. A lot of people ask about vaccinations. The yellow fever vaccine isn't required anymore. You can still get it if you want, along with others for things like malaria, but I personally didn't get any of them. Another thing is travel insurance. I didn't get it, but it's always a good idea to consider it for peace of mind. One thing you absolutely must do is book your accommodation in advance. When you get to immigration, they will ask for proof of where you're staying, so have that confirmation ready. Now for the best part, the money situation. You don't need to carry a bunch of cash. Kenya has a fantastic mobile money system called M-Pesa. As soon as you get there, head to a Safaricom shop, get a local SIM card, and set up M-Pesa. It's a total game changer. Everyone, and I mean everyone, uses it. From the Boda Boda motorcycle taxis to the Matatu bus drivers. It makes paying for things incredibly easy and safe. My journey was just beginning when I landed at Jomo. From my experience with immigration to exploring the country and everything in between, there's so much more to share. I'll cover my entire time in Kenya, right up until my return flight to Alaska, in Part 2. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Part 2 is coming next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.